How did you
Yeah.
get into sumo?
90, I've never been able to figure out when exactly it was, but it was like 98, 99, 2000, somewhere in that 3 year period. I was at my grandparents, not far from here, actually. I grew up in Iowa originally. And
Wow.
so I was visiting my grandparents, and I was watching ESPN, and they had ESPN at that time had like uh World of Sports, or I can't remember what it was, but it was like they would show sumo highlights. And the highlights, I remember, they were like very Americanized. Like the commentators were like I've watched them on YouTube now, and I'm like, man, these people didn't know anything about sumo, or
Yeah.
hardly anything about sumo. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's weird to watch it now knowing what I know. But
Yeah.
anyway, I was watching it, and the wrestler that I remembered the most was Musashi Maru. And I just thought, like, man, there's like this big guy, and he's just really powerful, and I just really thought he was awesome. So to this day, like, he's kind of my favorite because he's the one who I remembered as a kid.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, I watched it. I remember watching it several days while I was there, and then it was the late '90s, so like there wasn't, and I was born in '90, so uh, I was like 9, and I couldn't really. There wasn't like internet to like follow up, on sumo and follow up on the interest. So I just sort of forgot about it. So fast forward about 10 years, and I was 19, I guess. Yeah. Well, I was 18. I had just gotten married, and uh, we were we were living in Kentucky, and I was watching a something on TV, and there was a commercial. My recollection was that it had like a car, it had something to do with a car, but there was a sumo wrestler in this commercial, like lifting the
It's
car
the
or
Subaru
something.
one. It was it the Subaru one?
It might have been the Subaru one, yeah.
That's awesome.
And so I saw it. I was like, oh man, I remember like watching sumo as a kid. I think that would be cool. And so I got online, and there was very limited like English. Like, we're so lucky now
Yeah. Oh yeah.
because that back then it was like trying to find, a needle in a haystack. Like, you can't find it. And so I found like the original JSA website, and there was like the wrestlers, and it was in English, like you could read it in English, but just the wrestler profiles. And then I did a lot of like Wikipedia reading and stuff like that. And then that was 2009. Um, then we're back in Iowa, and I'm watching. Uh, I'm trying to find more stuff about sumo, and I found Jason's sumo channel. He was like the only guy at that time that was, streaming anything to do with sumo, and in English. And so you'd only get like the Sanyaku guys or whatever, and maybe like one of the bottom Maegashira guys. And so anyway, I watched the first tournament I ever watched and followed every single day was November 2009. And since then I've never missed a I've never missed a tournament. And so
Awesome.
the guy that I immediately grabbed onto as like my guy was Harmafuji. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and followed his career, followed his career from there. He was Ozeki at the time, and then he eventually became Yokozuna. And uh was fortunate enough to see Kaio like break Chino Fuji's record, on
Oh.
like his last last basho. And so it was cool. But yeah, Jason was the only one, and then there was like slowly there was like some guys. I remember there were some guys in like the 2013-14 range that was posting a lot of content, and then it kind of went away, and now it's like you can find it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I so wish that it was like it is now 10 years ago, because I would have been a lot further ahead.
Yeah.
But
I feel you because it's like The internet is a great thing, but like it was so you just couldn't reach it. You just couldn't you couldn't have Google Translate. You couldn't
Right.
just some of the simple tools that we use all the
No.
time weren't even there 5 years ago. Or if they were
Yeah.
there, they were so crappy. And like we really
Yeah.
rely on Google Translate and the people who are posting the stuff, natively in Japan. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
really helpful. But, you know, it's
Yeah.
amazing the difference between 20 years. I mean, I stopped watching for 15 years because I was like, how do I watch this? Like, how could I watch this?
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
was
for
just
sure.
no
Yeah,
way to
there's
watch
no
it.
yeah, there wasn't any there were no options, and that's and it was funny because I'm the type of person that if I see something I want to try it, like I want to do it, it's like I want to do that. So early 2010 I called a friend of mine and I said, I was like, hey, like this guy and he had played in bands with me for years, and like we were just buddies, and um, I said, why don't we sumo wrestle? Like, would you come over and like we, and he was like, yeah, I guess. so
Oh, man, I love your
so
friend
we
who's
like,
like,
Yeah.
you know what? Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll do that, buddy. And that's a
yeah,
good friend.
That is a
That
good
is a
yeah.
friend.
keeper of a friend.
Musician
Well,
and sumo wrestler.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we kind of fell out of contact, but yeah, he was a good friend at that time, and we went to the park, and we're just wearing. I actually somewhere there's footage of it on a long lost hard drive somewhere. Um, but we're literally like out in the park in March in Iowa, and it's like cold,
Old.
Oh,
and we're in our like our gym shorts just like wrestling around in this like grassy area in the park out of the way
I
of
would have loved to have watched the old people like walking by in the park, just be like, what are those two young men doing?
and
well,
at this point, you didn't know anything besides just watching it.
oh
That's
yeah, it was
all you had.
awful. I mean, it was the worst kind of sumo you've ever seen. It was not really, it was something like sumo, but it definitely wasn't sumo. And we we were it was funny because so we started that, and then I was like, I want to start, like I didn't know anything about amateur sumo in the US. I had no idea. But I was just sort of like, well, I'm going to start doing this, like, and so I recruited some other friends, and we would go to the park every week and have practice. And I do have footage of those later practices, and I'll send you guys a link to them at some point.
Yeah,
But
we'd love to watch.
so we did that for like, I don't know, probably about a year and a half, and then in 2000, the end of 2011, we moved to Kentucky. And once we moved to Kentucky, again, I didn't have anybody to wrestle with, and so that was kind of the end of it. So I've been out of it, and as far as wrestling, actually wrestling, since 2012, and yeah. So then, for everything that's happened in the last 2 years has been sort of insane.
Well,
Which is, tell us what's happened in the last couple of years.
By this point, I knew about the amateur sumo scene and the federation and that kind of stuff, and so I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna be 30 soon. If I'm gonna do something athletically, like I need to try to do it now, so I'm not like so while I'm at sort of any kind of peak that I could hit. And so I bought a Mawashi, and I had nobody here to train with or do anything with,
like,
so I
how
didn't
did
know
you
what I was
figure
going
out
to
how to
do.
put that Mawashi on
Yeah,
yourself?
did your wife help you put that on?
Well, I knew how to do it from back at the original club. We made our own Mawashis back then out of like
Oh,
heavy cotton or whatever.
nice.
And so we would just, I knew the basics of how to put one on, but I followed the instructions that came, and because there was a little more nuance to it than what I'd originally knew. And so folded it up. Yeah, my wife helped me get it on, and and so we I had no idea. I had no no partners, no anything. I was just going to try to do it on my own and maybe travel to some competitions. And
Oh.
anyway, I posted on one of the sumo groups. I don't remember which one now, but I just said, "Is there anybody in Cincinnati area that would be interested in wrestling?" And I had noticed at that point that like the sumo groups had blown up, more beyond anything I had really known. I was just kind of following it myself and not doing much online. Robert Foltz from Big Sumo Fan, his shirt here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a couple of stickers because we bought some stuff from
Oh
Big
yeah,
Sumo
towels.
Fan.
Yeah.
Yasu shirts.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got them all.
Yeah, so Robert lives in Cincinnati, and
I did not realize that.
yeah, and so he messaged me and he said, "Hey, there's a guy from here that has been wrestling, on the amateur scene, for the last several years, and his name's Darius Campbell, and you should, hook up with him." And Darius had been training by himself, for 2.5 years or something like that, almost 3 years, and literally the only time he ever got to wrestle somebody else was like at competitions, and
Whoa.
so it was just and
Just
so
like doing Shiko at home. You guys are
Oh,
doing
God.
Shiko and like stretches and stuff at home.
yeah,
In your
yeah,
basements or whatever, and then you would
yeah,
go
out in the
to a
yard,
competition to actually do sumo.
yeah, that's what he was, yeah,
Incredible pressure.
Yeah.
that's what he was doing, and that's what I was planning to do because I didn't know,
The dedication
I
that's behind
know.
that is amazing.
Nuts.
yeah, Darius really fell down that rabbit hole pretty hard, and I think he's one of the most knowledgeable people about sumo in the English speaking, like in America anyway. So I went to his house, and we set up a garden hose in the backyard as our Tawara.
Yeah.
And we wrestled, and he's like 400 pounds, and I'm about 180, so it was pretty lopsided, most of the time, but it was good to get in some, get in some work and try to, get back in the swing of things because I hadn't done it in so long. Now, fast forward, we've got, probably like 12 to 15, guys that show up for practice and drive from from all over. I mean, we have one of our guys drives up from Atlanta to come practice with us.
Whoa.
Um,
Wow. This
and
is like this is the Ohayo Sumo Club.
yeah,
A lot of the pictures we see on your social media.
yeah,
like you guys
for sure.
have a little gym workout. Like I'm so impressed just the sheer numbers, of people. There's so many people that could be so interested in this if they could just see it. We have
Yeah,
so rich in athleticism and wrestling in this country, and you want those people to find the sport. And I love that you're like, we have in Texas, we have a number of groups, but I love kind of where you're located too, because you can kind of pull in a lot of the people who are in the Southeast and the Midwest, that group of people that need a home
yeah.
too.
We're really the first presence of sumo that I'm aware of in the kind of Midwest region. We don't obviously there's been like I think there's been some attempts made at some clubs in like Chicago and places like that, but I mean, as far as like a club that meets every week and like does what we do, I don't know of any. And I if there are, or if there was, hopefully somebody reach out to me, but as far as I'm aware. And so it's just been wild. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that we would have grown so much. It's been, really incredible. And now, now sumo is just such a big part of my everyday, life now, in ways I didn't think it would be. So it's a lot of fun.
Like 10 years ago, could I have told myself I was going to have a podcast about sumo wrestling? No. But here we are.
Yep.
And like each day goes by and the more and more we dig into it and get to know more people. And then I keep thinking to myself, like, what's it going to be in like 10 years? I'm like, am I going to be like living in Japan, like covering in Japanese to the English? Like, where will we be? after
Yeah.
spending a lot more time doing this. I mean, because I do think it's going to continue to grow.
Maybe we'll
Yeah.
still be in the same closet.
We could be in the
10 years
same
from now.
living with our
You guys will
parents
just
in the closet doing a podcast.
they'll find like 200 years from now, like some archaeologist is gonna like find like there's gonna be like two ladies sitting in a closet facing each other and like the buried rubble. Like, what did they do?
What happened to these two? Oh. They got sucked into the sumo hole where they stayed forever. So okay, so that's working with adults. When did you add kids to the mix? When did you add teaching kids?
So that really just kind of started. We had our first youth practice, and did you guys see the video?
I saw just a picture. I didn't see the video.
Okay. I'll send you the video.
Missed it. Yeah, send me the video.
There's like a whole lot. There's a whole bunch of kids in a picture. That's what we saw.